Sports Talk. Let's go. Good morning and happy Sunday morning to everyone out there. It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and welcome to another live edition of NL Sunday Wake Up with me, Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk. Man, week 18 started off yesterday between what the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ravens, and then we had a really good matchup last night with the Texans and the Colts. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Houston Texans and their playoff clinching victory yesterday, and what that team looks like, and how I've been a fan of them for quite some time now. I'm also going to go over the power rankings. Some big changes in the power rankings you'll see, at least my power rankings, and then we'll break down the rest of the games throughout the rest of the day, and then we'll go over my clutch picks of the week. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday Wake Up with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go. Welcome back in, man. Hope you guys are doing all right. If you're watching live, make sure you guys drop a comment. And if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, man, go ahead and do so. It's 2024, trying to get those numbers up. Head over also to the Grid Network to check out the rest of the content creators on that particular network. So we're trying to get things we're trying to get things popping for 2024. So appreciate you guys. So, but again, happy Sunday, man. Week 18, the final week of the regular season. It's a little bittersweet, obviously, because we know the playoffs are right around the corner, but we also know that the season is almost coming to an end, and it's just around the corner with the Super Bowl ending here in Las Vegas in just a matter of weeks. So a little bittersweet moment here, but there's a lot of action and activity that we want to cover and get through today. So let's just start off the show by talking about the Houston Texans. Okay, now they've clinched the playoff berth. They can seemingly clinch the AFC South title with a loss today with Jacksonville against the Tennessee Titans. So Texans fans are going to be rooting hard for the Tennessee Titans to, I guess I say, pull off the upset against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I mean, however, though, they still are in the playoffs no matter what. But that would be amazing, man. You win 3 games last year, and then now you've clinched the playoff berth. You've won 10 games, and now you have a chance to be crowned the AFC South Kings. So that's pretty remarkable. And from the jump, right? I've been on it. I've said it. I actually went back and looked at an old TikTok that I made, I don't know, back in September. Now I didn't think that they would have this much success. However, though, I felt like they did get things right in parts of the personnel or the players that they've developed so far. Listen, even last year, a lot of those games that they lost, man, those were really close games. And a lot of the games, if you paid attention to Houston Texans football, they weren't getting blown out. There might have been a game or two where they were just flat out just overmanned or overmatched, right? But you look at a lot of those games, especially there was a game against my Dallas Cowboys where I want to say, did they force overtime, or it was like a nail biter? I forgot one of the things. I think it was a nail biter towards the end, and the Cowboys had to basically steal the game in the last waning moments from the Texans. So they had a lot of those types of games. And then fast forward, you enter the draft. You get a cornerstone player like CJ Stroud, and then you draft another cornerstone player like a Will Anderson on your defense. And then you pair those guys with other play members on the team, especially on offense. Listen, Houston Texans, they lucked out, man. They got Tank Dell, who I was big on coming out of the draft. I thought they stole him. Now, unfortunately, they don't have him the rest of the year. He's hurt. Imagine if they did have him, how more explosive they would be, right? They picked up the Singletary, the running back, to pair him off with Damian Pierce, I think his name is, and Dalton Schultz. As a Cowboys fan, I was like, damn, it is what it is. Well, good luck to him. You know what I mean? He looked like he went from a really solid team to another solid team. And then CJ Stroud, what more else can I say about him, right? Obviously, it seems like Carolina really effed up. They really effed up. Now, to be fair, Carolina really doesn't have the talent that Houston does. I mean, to be fair, like when Carolina traded DJ Moore, it was kind of like, well, really? Are you like you traded your best wide receiver or your best offensive asset, and then you draft a young quarterback? Who is he going to be throwing to? Adam Thielen? Like, come on, that doesn't make any sense. So, am I all the way out on Bryce Young? No, I'm not all the way out, but things aren't looking too good for him. That organization is in tatters right now. You got the owner and Mr. Tepper, whatever his name is, throwing drinks on fans. Like, it's not a good sight. So Houston, they did their thing. rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie quarterback. Making the playoffs is not something that usually happens for that combination. It's very rare, and for them to do it in their first year and possibly have the chance to win division title, man, that's pretty remarkable. So, shout out to Houston. It's a great city. I know they love their football, and they haven't really been able to get behind the Texans. But I think you got a quarterback now that you can get behind, and the rest of the team. I mean, Nico Collins, I forgot to mention him. Like, that's another steal. So, Texans, the future is looking bright for the Houston Texans. Now, real quick, before I go into the power rankings, I was just kind of perusing the internet this morning, and I happened to see some of the I would say the guesstimated or estimated matchups, based on the current standings that we have right now. So right now, if everything holds pat, right, let's just say the Texans do win the division, um, they'll be playing the Browns. And to me, that's kind of sad, because I really like both teams and the way they're playing football, and one of them will have to go home after next week's matchup, obviously in the wild card. So that's the only thing that I don't like, because I think both teams can be dangerous. I don't think you want to see either one of these teams in the playoffs. So, but let's looking at the matchups currently for a wild card weekend for the AFC right now, as it stands right now. If the Dolphins pull off the upset, I guess, at home today, they're looking at a matchup against Pittsburgh, or that could easily be the Buffalo Bills hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Because either one of those teams would have won the AFC East. And then right now we have the Bills at the Chiefs, or that could easily be Miami at the Chiefs. For the most part, the Chiefs have they pretty much locked up the third spot. That would be an interesting one. I would say, though, I would probably go with the Chiefs just because of the weather. If the Dolphins were able to slide to the sixth, but I guess we'll know more about this tomorrow or at the end of the day, with what's happening with that. And then again, I just talked about the Browns and the Texans, if that were to be a possibility, in regards to them winning the division. So obviously the Colts were eliminated last night based on that loss. And it sucks for them, because they literally could have had that play, that 4th and 1. They should have converted it. Gardner Minshew probably need to put a better ball out there for the running back. The running back tried to turn and contort his body. It just didn't happen. And a lot of people were like, well, why didn't they just run the football? But like they mentioned, or Troy Aikman mentioned on the simulcast last night, or the telecast last night, that they throw on 4th and short a lot. So it wasn't out of the ordinary for them to run that type of play. I thought the play was a good call. The execution just was lacking. Now, teams that are still alive, obviously Jacksonville, they're still alive. They have to win. This is essentially a playoff game for them. If they lose, they're done. And then Houston will eventually end up winning the AFC South. And then that's it. Now, if they do win, the Texans will. I think it'll be a flip flop. Because the Jags will then would have won the division. But we'll have to wait and see with that. So, and then they would host the Browns, and then the Texans would have to go on the road somewhere else, because they wouldn't be a divisional winner. So that's what it's looking like for the AFC. If you're an AFC fan and you're looking for potential games that you may want to watch that mean something, really 2 games today, I would say. The Jacksonville and the Titans game. Obviously, the Titans are going to be in that spoiler role, and then you have the Sunday night game between the Dolphins at home taking on the Buffalo Bills. So those are the 2 AFC games that I think are worth watching today and this evening as well. Now, if we look at the NFC East, right? Obviously, we know the Niners have basically locked it up. So let's take a look at potential matchups. Now, there's a little bit more action on the NFC side of things in regards to teams that are still alive. But if we currently look at the matchups based on the records today, as it stands right now, we would have the Packers traveling to Jerry's World to take on my Cowboys. Then the Rams will be heading over to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. And then the Eagles would have to travel to Tampa Bay if the Buccaneers win out and win that division. So, but a couple other news and notes here. So the Cowboys can clinch the NFC East today with a win with the win straight up. Right now, if they lose and the Eagles lose, I think they're still good. Nothing changes. But if the Cowboys lose and Eagles win, then the Eagles will win the division. All right. So a little bit to remember there. So that's a big game, obviously, that I'm going to be tuned in anyway. As long as the Cowboys win, they're going to clinch the division and they'll lock up the number 2 seed. So again, that first matchup at AFC or the wild card weekend between the Packers and the Cowboys, that can even also change with the Packers, right? The Packers still have to win because there's a couple other teams breathing down their neck. So the Packers can clinch a playoff berth with the win over the Bears. They'll get the 6th seed. If that win is combined with their Rams loss as well, they'll get the 7th seed. Okay. So the Rams and the Packers can somehow flip flop, depending on what happens the rest of today. So that's something to be on the lookout for. So a lot more happening, excuse me, on the NFC side. Now, teams that are still alive in the NFC, Seahawks. Now they've lost, but I think their last 2, right? So they lost last week to Pittsburgh, and I forgot who they lost to the last week before. So their backs are really against the wall. Now, if they win, so Seahawks will punch their ticket to the postseason with the win over the Cardinals, and then they need the Packers to lose to Chicago. So there is some hope there for Seattle. And then the Saints. Now, the Saints, their best way is to try to win the division. Like, as far as a wild card is concerned, I would say they're pretty much, that's a little bit out of their grasp right there. So the Saints can win the NFC South if they beat the Falcons and the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers. So they still got to beat the Falcons, and then they got to hope for the Panthers to maybe bow up a little bit and beat those Buccaneers. However, though, they could still get a wild card if they beat the Falcons combined with a Packers loss, a Seattle loss, and a Buccaneers win. So, and I'm reading this because I could not remember all. Trust me, I was trying to memorize this and I couldn't. All right, I'm not that good, right? So they're still in it. And then the Vikings, their chances are pretty it's on life support, I would say. They can still make the playoffs. However, they need a lot of help from some other teams. Not only would they have to beat the Lions, which and the Lions still have something to play for. They can still maybe try to sneak in and get that 2nd seed. But they would have to beat the Lions, beat the Seahawks, and the Packers would both have to lose. Plus the Saints or Buccaneers would have to lose for the Vikings to get in at 7 and 9. So Vikings fans, you might as well start making those reservations because you guys are probably going fishing. But Seahawks and the Saints, you still got a chance. And the final team, and this is funny, the Falcons. The Falcons are still kind of in this. They're kind of like the Vikings as well. They need a lot of help. The only way the Falcons can get in the playoffs is if they beat the Saints and the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers, and that combination would allow the Falcons to clinch the NFC South. So they're 7 and 9. They can potentially win the NFC South at 8 and 9. So probably the worst division in football. Somebody's going to have to make the playoffs out of that division. So you have 3 teams still vying for that. But right now, the Buccaneers really control their destiny as far as if they win, they're in. They don't need any help as long as they win. And I believe they got to take care of that today. So they're on the road in Carolina. It's the divisional game. Maybe the Panthers, a lot of these guys will be playing for their jobs. So we'll see how that works out. So hopefully they're able to rise to the challenge, unlike last week where they didn't show up and the Buccaneers kind of fell. But so there you go. So as far as games to watch, man, I mean, honestly, for the NFC, all these games mean a little bit of something. It really does, unless you're like the Commanders fans or something like that, where you really have nothing else going on for you. You're better off going to Costco with your wife because there's really there's nothing else happening for you. But majority of the games for the NFC will mean something, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment there. So we got some comments. Let's go check it out real quick. Hey, what's up, partner? How you doing, brother, man? Long time no see. He says, great job, Ryan. CJ's that dude. How do you feel about Lamar Jackson heading to the playoffs? That is a good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Parnell, or Sports PSP. Make sure you guys check him out. Here's the thing. I've been very critical about Lamar Jackson, and in the beginning of the season, I did receive a lot of hate from people, and I think, though, the hate was a little bit misdirected. I think when anytime you criticize a quarterback, let alone an African American quarterback, and myself being of minority status, people feel like it's hate, and it's not hate. I'm glad that he got paid. You know what I mean? I'm not counting the guy's pockets, and I'm not surprised that he's going to end up winning this MVP, and rightfully so. Okay, it is what it is. Has his stats been tremendous. They've been good. They weren't better than the year that he won the MVP. His stats are still maybe not as good as Dak Prescott's stats. However, though, he has won really big games. And on top about not winning those big games, it's how they won those big games. And he's won them late, right? So that's the reason why he's going to win this MVP. And it's well deserved. It is what it is. I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson in the regular season, right? My biggest question for him or for that team is, what are you guys going to do in the divisional round? Are they now? His playoff record is pretty abysmal. Hopefully that changes this year. And if it doesn't, then I'll just say, well, this is what it is. This is what it is. And so we'll go forward with that. So, again, I don't hate Lamar Jackson. He is what he is. Is he good? He's a good player. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. So, but I'm not that big of a fan of him. And maybe because I don't like that team as much. So it is what it is. So, but that's how I feel about Lamar Jackson, especially heading into the playoffs. So it depends on the matchups too, right? So we'll have to wait and see. Parnell with another question says, I didn't have a problem with the play call. As Herm Edwards says, you play to win the game. Mentioned, yeah, in regards to that 4th and 1 with the calls. I thought the play was good. The execution pretty much was lacking at that point. And his final question here, partner, he says, what performance you expect from Baker today? Listen, Baker Mayfield, man, he's played solid football this year. He is what he is as well. Is he an elite quarterback? No, he's not. Will he ever be an elite quarterback? No, he probably won't. Right? He's been a couple years in the league now. He's serviceable. I think he's on the right team for what he needs. He's like a borderline starter, fringe backup. Now, if you were the Buccaneers and you were in a position to go and get one of the top quarterbacks in the upcoming draft, yeah, you would do that and maybe let him play behind Baker Mayfield a little bit, or you throw the young guy out there because Baker can come off the bench and play. Baker Mayfield has established himself as a serviceable quarterback in the National Football League, and I think that's all it is for him. As far as backups are concerned, if for some reason he became a backup next year or next couple of years, that would be a really, really good backup for him as a position. So can he start in the NFL? Yeah, he can. He's showing that, right? If they, he can actually win an NFC South championship today with the win. So, but is he going to be a guy that's going to be like, oh my God, Baker Mayfield, like he's legit? Like, no, he's not that dude. He's not that guy. So, but yeah. All right, let's take a look at the power rankings because I know we're going to get some heads turning and some eyes rolling. So check it out, man. Listen, it's my list. You make your own list. If not, shut the hell up. All right, so we got number 1. We got the Baltimore Ravens. They've locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC. They were resting yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, rightfully so. That game was it was a monsoon out there, so don't need nobody getting hurt out there. Then also we have the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, Brock Purdy coming down maybe just a little bit, obviously, after that ass whooping they got a couple weeks ago. Still a talented team nonetheless. And they play a physical brand of football. So Niners are still one of the top teams in my opinion. They're balanced and they can run. And like I said, they're tough. Buffalo Bills have shot up for me, right? Again, they're one of those teams that are very fragile, though. They're a fragile number 3 because although they've been playing really good football the last couple of weeks, because for them, essentially, the last couple of weeks have been playoff games. They could not have afforded to really lose any games down the stretch, and they've rose to that challenge, right? They rose to that challenge. You beat Dallas thoroughly. You beat a couple other teams that you went on the road in a tough environment in Kansas City. You got the win there. So, but however, though, they're always around that corner, that Buffalo Bills team where you're like, what the hell are they doing today? So I have them at number 3 because I'm giving them a little bit of collateral based on what they've done the last month. So I want to give them their respect for that. So, but I still don't feel like the first 2 teams I feel good about. I'm strong. I'm like, yes, even though the Niners got their ass whooped, that's not their DNA. The Ravens were just well more prepared to win that game on Christmas night. So, but anyway, all right, coming in at number 4. I posted about Joe Flacco earlier this week or last week. Last week. The Browns, man, listen, despite not having Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, some injuries here and there, this team is playing really good football, and it's led by Joe Flacco, the veteran. Joe Flacco is looking like Joe Flacco from the year he won the Super Bowl. Now, this is like a Nick Foles type of moment. Maybe he's catching magic in the bottle. And that's what we need to look at it as. I don't think we need to be looking into the future like, oh, is there quarterback controversy in Cleveland? Hell no. Deshaun Watson will be the guy when he comes back from his injuries. And Joe Flacco, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe he's auditioned himself for another starting job somewhere else in the National Football League, but he's proven that he's still got some game left in him. Okay, so I got Cleveland coming in at number 4, and I got the Lions at number 5. Although their loss last week, the controversial loss to the Cowboys last week, I thought for the most part, they I wouldn't say they were the better team, but I felt better with the Detroit Lions overall. And I'll talk about the Cowboys here next, as I rightfully so, because I would say I'm not an expert, but this is my team. But as far as the Lions are concerned, I thought they did a lot of good things. Amon St. Brown got robbed of a Pro Bowl. Now, I will say this: if I had a chance to talk to him, who cares, man? The Pro Bowl is probably one of the worst professional all-star games there is now, right? It's a flag game. Like, are you kidding me? So I get it. You want to have that on your resume. And he'll probably end up getting an invite anyway because somebody else is going to say, I don't feel like going to the Pro Bowl. So you can be an alternate. So, because that's what they do. Like, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler last year as a quarterback. Like, that don't make no damn sense. So it doesn't mean anything that much anymore, but I understand from his perspective, it's nice to hear that next to your name, like Amon St. Brown, Pro Bowler. I get it. And he did get robbed. Other than CeeDee Lamb and maybe Puka Nacua, I can't think of another like NFC wide receiver that has put up the numbers that Amon St. Brown. And help me out in the chat. Let me know if I'm missing somebody in the NFC. But he got snubbed for sure. And then number 6, the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, they cannot run the football. Can't run the football. Michael Parsons is getting held, of course, but he's not getting after the quarterback. Now, he's still pressuring quarterbacks, but I want him to get sacks. We want sacks, not pressures. Pressures are good, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather just have the sack. Okay? But the biggest concern for me is the ability to not run the football. That's a problem. I am an old school kind of mentality when it comes to offensive play calling. Now, I understand the game is played in the air, but at some point you need to run the football, right? And a lot of people say, well, the Chiefs never ran the football. Correct, right? But when they needed to run the football, they could run the football. And right now, I don't think the Cowboys could run the football. I don't think the Cowboys could run the football against the little Giants led by Rick Moranis at this point, okay? That's an old school 90s movie reference. Maybe some of you guys are too young. But anyway, they can't run the football. Tony Pollard, he's not a number 1 running back. He's good when he's paired with somebody else, right? I really thought somehow the Cowboys, and this is fantasy land, but maybe should have went out and tried to trade for Derrick Henry if he was even out on the market like that, right? They need some other type of big back to get those short yardage, and really they don't. All their guys are small, and I said that going into the year. Tony Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, like, dude, man, Cowboys Nation. Some people were like, oh my God, we got Deuce Vaughn. Like, I did a clutch combine on him. And I said, he's a talented player. He's done a lot with his short, diminutive stature. But in the end, man, he's not like overly. He's not Darren Sproles as far as like the speed. He's a good player, but will he be able to stack up and be manageable in the National Football League? I just don't see it, man. I really don't. And when they took him, and I get it, it was like a 6th or 7th round pick. It really didn't mean anything. But Cowboys Nation, oh my God, we got Deuce Vaughn. Like, he was good in college, very productive. But to me, that was more of like a Jerry Jones helping out one of his employees there. And then let me not let McCarthy off the hook too. You know, there were some things down the stretch, play calling, time management, that's concerning for me, right? The offense really sometimes has no juice. We can't really, no one's getting open. Brandon Cooks surprisingly has played really well down the stretch here. Dak has been able to find him late in some of these games. But CeeDee Lamb is the guy that they're going to. And when you get into the playoffs, you're going to be playing against really good teams, defensive teams, and they're going to slow down CeeDee Lamb at some point. Who else can you go to? Michael Gallup is a shell of himself. So we'll have to wait and see. But Cowboys at number 6. Now, the good thing is about it, Dak is not turning the ball over. The defense has played pretty solid for the most part. Bending but not breaking. So that's kind of a good thing, I guess, in a sense. But offensively, you got to run the football. And I've been saying it, I've been pounding it, I've been saying it over and over. You got to run the football. You got to run the football. So, all right. Eagles at number 7. I don't know what's going on with them. They're a shell of themselves. Which rightfully so. You lose both of your coordinators. You lost a lot of defensive talent. and your current offensive coordinator, he don't know what the hell he's doing now, or is Jalen Hurts not that good? You never know. That's why in society, man, people are so quick to anoint people. Like Jalen Hurts is not a young quarterback in this league. Like, yes and no. He's had some games, like, and last year down that stretch, they were phenomenal, right? And especially for him in the Super Bowl. But we were so quick to say, oh, he's the best quarterback in the National Football League. He's top 3, he's top 5. He's a good player. Let's let things play out sometimes, folks. Right? Like, but people were so quick to be like, oh my God, like the Joshua Dobbs situation in Minnesota. Oh my God, what's he doing out there? It's a reason why this man has bounced from team to team to team. Okay, let's not forget that. Yeah, when he came in, he sparked a couple wins for some teams in Arizona and Minnesota. But look where he's at now. He's watching. He's on the bench, and he's probably going to be on some other team next year. So it is what it is. He's a backup. So it's okay to call people backups, but let's not anoint them as the next savior. And Jalen Hurts, that's what he is. Is he the best quarterback in the NFC? No, he's not. And I'm not saying it because I'm a Cowboys fan, because you got ignorant ass people that'll say, oh, well, coming from a Cowboys fan, of course. Yes. If you watch my channel, if you watch my shows, and apparently a lot of people don't, and they should, right? I'm very objective when it comes to my Cowboy fandom, right? Because I run a NFL show, not a Cowboys fan page show. And it's clear that Dak Prescott is the better quarterback in the NFC. But off of 1 year, everybody was just sucking and riding and swinging from the nuts of Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm telling you guys, you got to let things play out more. You got to let things play out. And people don't. They're so quick to say, oh my God, this guy's the greatest player of all time. It's like, damn. He's only played like 2 years. Like, let's see what happens. All right. All right. Anyway, moving on. Miami Dolphins, they've slid. Man, listen, injuries have really demolished this team. I don't know what it is, man. It seems like the last year too, they had a lot of injuries down the stretch. I don't know if it's the style of football. Is it the training down there? Just freak acts. I don't know, man. You lose both of your bookend defensive ends. Tyreek Hill, unfortunately, probably will not get that 2,000 yards, which he was on pace to. He was so close. I believe he's at like 1,700 yards. And so unless he just goes off today against Buffalo, I don't really see it happening. But he's battling, I believe, a foot or ankle injury. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. Offensive line struggles a little bit too. So they've really slid, and it just sucks for the Miami Dolphins. So, but they'll get in the playoffs somehow, some way. But it might just be an early exit for them. And then, excuse me, at number 9, Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, looking strong, looking proud. Big win last night on the road against a divisional rival. I really like what this team can do. Listen, the AFC to me, outside of Baltimore, it's really not that strong. Yeah, I mean, like the Texans can make some noise if they can, get past whoever their first matchup. If it's the Browns, that'd be a great game. If it's somebody else, then so be it. But that's a team you may not want to see because CJ Stroud is a baller. Okay, he's a baller, and he showed that last night. All right, and 10, Kansas City Chiefs. They're only in there just because I'm giving them respect for Super Bowl champions. This team, to me, offensively, they're toast. They're toast. They have no wide receiver threat. The running game is okay. The only saving grace for them is their defense. Their defense is a lot better than what it was, or at least we think it is. But they have no creativity on offense. And again, they don't have a receiver. Travis Kelce's a shell of himself. But I'm giving them respect because honestly, it was between them and the Rams. That's who I was. And the Rams have been playing good too. So shout out to the Rams, honorable mention. But those are my top 10 power rankings for the the final power rankings for the regular season. So excuse me. Look at them, take a look at them, and we'll move on. We'll get to some questions here because we got some comments here. So let me load up the next clip here. But before I do that, let's look at some comments here. So we got my guy Ben. He says, "Hey, shout out to Ben, man. Appreciate the coverage on Baker there. Yeah, of course, man. I try to cover everybody as much as possible. We'll see. I'm not just a fanboy. All right. He also says, don't forget Al Bundy coached these Cowboys as well. Whatever happened to Spike, Icebox ruined his career. She did. Icebox did, especially that goal line stance. Right? Was it a goal line stance in that movie where she scraped and then she went and tackled him and right there, I believe, at the goal line or for the first down. So that's one of the greatest wins in football history. So if you haven't watched that movie, go check out The Little Giants, man. Great movie there. So, all right. Let's take a look at some games here, some previews. First game is one of the clutch picks of the week. I was 3-1 last. I've been 3-1 the last 2 weeks. I'm 33-31. I'm looking to finish the regular season above 500. So let's go. Let's do it. All right. So we got the Atlanta Falcons on the road taking on the Saints. I think both teams are like lame duck teams, and from reports coming out of New Orleans, Dennis Allen has it. His job is still safe. And if you're a Saints fan, that's not what you want to hear. So, Dennis Allen to me, he's been there a while. People don't realize he's been there a while, man, and they haven't even done shit. He reminds me of like a librarian or something. But anyway, nonetheless, I'm gonna take the Saints. That was a good win, like great win last week on the road against Tampa Bay. I know, Ben, you don't want to hear that if you're still listening. But great win. But I'm gonna take the Saints to win this game. Atlanta, to me, I think Arthur Smith, he should be on his way out. They have no identity on offense. Like you got some talented guys. You got Bijan Robinson, who you drafted, Drake London, Kyler Pitts, and this guy's going to some random dudes, man. Like, come on, man. And again, they missed out on the quarterback. You need a quarterback. And I remember a guy, I have receipts, Atlanta Falcons fan. I did like I forgot what I mentioned something about the Falcons, and this guy, he was like, "Oh, you don't know shit about football, huh?" Granted, you guys can still win the division, but this team is not good, man. This team is not. It's not a good team. If they win the division, it's because somebody had to win the division, right? So it doesn't mean that they're gonna contend for a Super Bowl or anything like that. But the Saints just take care of the Falcons for me today. So I got the Saints in that matchup. And all right, Jacksonville on the road at Tennessee with the playoffs on the line. I want to say Trevor Lawrence should be playing today. I know he didn't play last week, so they kind of conceded that a little bit. Mike Vrabel was in the media this week. Talked about winning and losing and what it meant. And I think I don't know if he's on his way out. I hope not. I think they need to maybe rebuild this team a little bit more. But I think he's the right coach. But I think they're going to be playing for their asses for today. I think they are. And I'm going to get an upset. I'm going to go with the Titans to get the upset over Jacksonville, and Jacksonville will not make the playoffs. And it just proves Trevor Lawrence, it's a team sport, but Trevor Lawrence is a good guy, good quarterback, but he's not this guy that people think he is. He just isn't. He's a good, solid player, and it'd be disappointing because I had Jacksonville winning this division outright. Literally, if I went back and read a lot of the stuff that I posted, I'm like, there's no reason why this team should not win the division. But apparently, I was wrong in that regard. So, but I knew it was going to be tough because they had some good quarterbacks in there, some young guys, but I got the Tennessee Titans to pull off the upset and deny the Jacksonville Jaguars back-to-back years in the playoffs. So. All right, Vikings on the road in Detroit. The Vikings did not show up last week to play the Packers in what was an important game. They went with the young quarterback, Jaron Hall, I believe. He got benched by halftime, and they put in Nick Mullins. That didn't work out. I don't know who's starting for them today, but Detroit maybe has some stuff to play for. So I'm going to go with Detroit to win this game. Vikings. I think Vikings already been on Travelocity or Verbo booking their vacation packages because they're going to be going fishing somewhere in Mexico. Anyway, all right, Seattle on the road in Arizona. Seattle. I don't know, man. This is one of my other favorite teams out there. They just really haven't played well down the stretch. Arizona, obviously, great win last week, helping my Cowboys. I appreciate you, Arizona. So I'm gonna continue to root for the Cardinals. Now they got some questions. Obviously, I'll talk a little bit about them right now because who cares? We're not gonna be talking about Arizona Cardinals football here in a long time. But they got some questions, man. So I think they're gonna stay with Kyler Murray. I don't think they're gonna be entering the draft for a quarterback. Now, depending on where they're picking at, maybe they go offensive wide receiver, maybe they go offensive line. Their coordinator is a defensive guy, but I think they need to add pieces to continue to help Kyler Murray. But I like the Cardinals, their chances that they're at home. Even though Seattle's backs against the wall, I think Arizona is playing for they're in a spoiler role. And if you've ever been on a team where you're making the playoffs or have much to play for, but you could ruin someone else's day, they're in a good spot for that today. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win that game. All right. The Jets on the road in New England probably was what it can be potentially the last game by Bill Belichick as the head coach of the Patriots, um, which I think it is. Hey, listen, both teams, man, are offensively inept. They're identical in the same sense where defensively they're pretty good. Bill Belichick's defenses have always been pretty good, right? It's offense they can't get it together. And as far as the Jets are concerned, they're pretty much handcuffed to Aaron Rodgers. Um, I honestly I think they should move on from their coaching. Robert Saleh, great defensive coordinator, but I don't know if he's the guy for the head coaching job. Uh, Obviously Nathaniel Hackett needs to go, right? But he's not because Aaron Rodgers will be back next year, so they're going to try to redo this all over again. If I'm a Jets fans, that you're kind of in purgatory right now. You don't know if you done enough to be in heaven, or you did too much and now you're in hell. So I think right now they're kind of like more towards hell. But it is what it is. We got some comments here real quick. We got Vegas Vips. He says Raiders. Yeah, hey, I'm gonna talk about them in just a second because they got interesting stuff going on. Barry brought from All Even Podcast says, hey, and he also says, be nice to Aaron. I'm gonna come after you. Salute my G, man. Hey, listen, Aaron Rodgers, man, he's a prick, dude. He's a prick, and he does things. And it wasn't me. I wasn't the one that wanted to come back after Christmas. Like, come on, man. He does shit on purpose, and that he's annoying to me when it comes to that. And I like the Jets, man. I think the Jets, they have talent, but I think he's past his prime. He's injured now, so I don't know, but but I forgot who's gonna win this game. Give me the Jets. Give me the Jets to win. Nah, I'm gonna go with New England at home. I think they're gonna send Belichick out with the win, because the Jets can't score. They can't score at all. So, all right, Carolina at home hosting Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay they need to win this game. This is essentially a playoff game for them. Baker Mayfield on the road. Carolina really. I don't know how much the tickets were for this game. I think like if you turn in a Coke can and 25 cents, something like that. So I don't know if the stadium would be packed for that, but I like Tampa Bay to win this game. They should win this game and lock up this division and move on. Out of all the teams in the NFC South, I would rather see them make it. They have a chance to maybe beat a team or two. So that's who I would want to see win this game. So shout out to the Buccaneers. All right, Cleveland Browns on the road, Cincinnati. This is kind of a meaningless game for the most part. The Bengals, they've been eliminated. I guess if anything, they're just going to be auditioning guys for next year. So I don't remember now if the Browns have anything to really play for. I think they're pretty much locked up that fifth seed. So I think if they do play a lot of their starters, it's going to be very vanilla on offense, vanilla on defense. I don't think anyone's going to try to go out there and do too much. However, though, I'm gonna take the Bengals, I think, because I think those guys have a little bit more to play for because they're not making the playoffs, but they're essentially auditioning for other teams from the National Football League, so they need tape. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals, just as like a random pick there. And then the Broncos taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a very interesting one because a lot of people want to see Antonio Pierce get the job, right? However, though, Jim Harbaugh, there's rooms coming out of Ann Arbor that he's got an agent that's very well connected to the NFL, and maybe he might be trying to dip his toes back in the waters of the National Football League. And if I'm Mark Davis, you're kind of in a conundrum because now you're like, well, I like Antonio, but Jim Harbaugh is out there. This is a guy that's been to the Super Bowl. He's won a lot of games in the National Football League as a head coach in San Francisco. He's proven in a sense versus Antonio Pierce, who's done a nice job with this team, with the Raiders, considering what the circumstances are. And it's tough. It's tough. And I think that's probably why Mark Davis hasn't really come out and said, you know what, Antonio Pierce is the guy. And a lot of people were expecting him to wrap this job up now. And it's not. So I think we'll know more in the next week or so, especially after the outcome of this national championship game. If Michigan wins this game, I think Jim is back in the NFL. Or he may just be back in the NFL, period, because he's kind of like, well, we had a lot going on. He got suspended twice this year in college football for whatever, right? And he's probably like, dude, this shit ain't happening in the National Football League. Like, I want to get back to to the NFL and coach men and not young men or kids. So um, I don't know, man. It's one of those things. If I'm Mark Davis, I think I got to kick the tires on Jim Harbaugh if he's available. No offense to Antonio Pierce. I think he's done a good job. I know his players they're playing their ass for him. And this takes us back to this game. I think the Raiders win this game. I think they're gonna try to win this game for Antonio Pierce to maybe solidify the reasoning for him getting the job. Will he work out long term? I don't know. I don't know. For those who know me, I don't like defensive minded coaches. I don't really like player coaches as well. And he's kind of like he's both. He's a player coach and he's a defensive guy. So, but again, salute to him. I think he's done a fantastic job given the circumstances. Now, will the Raiders pass on him like they did a couple years ago with Bisaccia, and they went ahead and hired the boy genius there with McDaniels? If Jim Harbaugh is out there, I think you got to kick the tires on Jim Harbaugh. Now, the one thing about Harbaugh, I will say, he will wear out his welcome very quickly because that's how he is. So that's one thing you have to consider. So I don't know. I don't. And can the Raiders afford Jim Harbaugh? Still paying McDaniels? Raiders are not one of the they're one of the poorer teams in the National Football League. I think maybe some of that has changed now since they've moved to Vegas and their net value has probably increased since moving from Oakland to Vegas, but they're not like the Cowboys. They're not like even the Patriots. These owners with a lot of money. So, but anyway, long story short, I'm going to go with the Raiders. And as far as the Broncos are concerned, season did not start off well. They had a nice little spot where they racked off like 5-6 in a row, and then kind of just the wheels just came falling off, man, at the end of the day. And so I think they'll lose today. But moving forward for them, they need a quarterback. Obviously, Russell Wilson is not in their future. What do they do now? They won too many games to possibly get up in the draft to get one of those guys. Trevor Siemian is not the answer for those guys there in Denver. And they got some talent. Do have the right coach? I don't know. But Sean Payton, at least if he's going to go out, he wants to go out with his own guys. So we'll see what he does. But a long story short, I got the Raiders winning this game. And maybe AP gets the job there. We'll see. I don't, man. StreamYards is tripping, dude. Like every week it's like deleting one of my files. So let's see. Or did I cover everything? No, I know I missed the game. Come on, StreamYards. What are we doing here? All right. All right. Here's the last couple games here. We got the Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. Kind of like a playoff vibe here for Green Bay. Chicago, on the road, Justin Fields. Look, he's got the fan support in Chicago. Chicago's in a tough situation. They're gonna have the number 1 overall pick. Do they go quarterback or do you trade those picks and maybe still go get Marvin Harrison Jr., right? And then you go back, you get some other assets and you get more players. Guys, I think that's the way to go. Yeah, they need more players, right? If you can secure Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you can go back and get some other help, that's good. I think Justin Fields. Now they need to switch coaches though too. They need a new GM, new coaching. But today, I'm gonna go with Chicago on the road, man, to get the upset. For some reason, I feel like Justin Fields is gonna have a good time today on the road in Chicago. So I'm gonna go with him to get the win today. Eagles and Giants. This is gonna be a close one. They played a couple on Christmas Day, if I'm not mistaken, or Christmas Eve. I forgot which one it was. And this game, although the Eagles won, it was a little closer than what people remember. And the Giants, listen, what's his name is getting the start today? I forgot his name now. God, what is his name? Tyrod Taylor. He's got the start. He moved the ball a little bit there with the Giants last week. Eagles are struggling and they're reeling. So I'm going to go with an upset. I think the Giants will get this win. I think the Eagles are really floundering right now. They'll still make the playoffs, but I think they'll lose this game today. So I'm going to pick the Giants to get the win and close out their season. LA Rams on the road in San Francisco. San Francisco really they don't have much to play for. So they're going to probably be benching a lot of these guys. So in essence, I think the Rams should just win this game, because I don't think they can advance their playoffs seeding any more further, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go with the Rams. And these picks are just random at this point because there's so a lot of these games have predetermined already in regards to seeding. So, but I'm going to go with the Rams just because I think they're going to be playing more of their guys versus the Niners. The Niners should not be playing anybody. They should not be playing anybody at this point. Christian McCaffrey should not be playing. Debo, Trent Williams, nobody should be playing. All right, Chargers on the road in Kansas City. The Chiefs need to keep playing. They need to figure out something before next week. And what better way to do it against one of the worst defensive teams in the National Football League, the LA Chargers. I like the Chiefs to win this game, and kind of maybe jumpstart something on offense going into the playoffs. And the Cowboys on the road taking on the Commanders. This is a big game for the Cowboys as well. They got to win. If they win, they lock up the NFC East. So they're going to be playing their guys for sure. Because you would want to host a playoff game for sure, and maybe you get lucky. Niners lose in the divisional round, and guess what? You guys are in there. Now you're the top seed in the NFC. I mean, that's in a perfect world. But Commanders, Ron Rivera is done. Now will it be Eric Bieniemy's team? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, he's going to get some offers from other from other teams. So, but I like the Cowboys to win this game. It's going to be close though. For some reason, anytime we go to Washington and play there, it's always a little bit tight. I don't know. It's a divisional game, so the teams know each other well. But I still like our chances on the road. I wish we had a running game, but I think Dak will help us prevail and get the win. And the final regular season game of the year takes us to Miami. Sunday Night Football in Miami again. Buffalo Bills on the road. Like I talked about in my power rankings, Dolphins just have way too many injuries. They're going to try, but I think Buffalo will outlast them. They're just a little bit more healthier than the Miami Dolphins. So I got Buffalo to win that game. So real quick, let's recap the clutch picks of the week. So obviously Texans won last night, so I'm 1-0 so far. I got the Saints, Cardinals, and the Bills to wrap up the regular season clutch picks of the week. I went 3-1 last week, looking to stay above. I've never went 4-0 this year. I went 0-4 2 weeks in a row, but I never went 4-0. So come on, Saints, come on, Cardinals, come on, Bills. Let's get the job done so I can finish off the season with 4-0, a regular season, and then we'll look at the playoffs starting next week. So there you have it, clutch picks of the week. All right. Well, we have just a little bit over an hour until kickoff in some games here. Lock in today, man. It's a lot, especially on the NFC side of things. Pay attention to some of those games. And AFC too, there's some playoff implications as well too. But just overall, man, enjoy yourselves today. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys in the comments. Ben, Vegas Vips, Barry from the All Even Podcast. My boy Patrick. Oh, actually, matter of fact, Patrick, let me get his comments off. He says Jets, Jets, just end the season. I love that saying. He says Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers makes sense. Better roster, tailor-made for Jim. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Got the quarterback there. You got some receivers. So we'll see. And then he says Giants will pull off the upset at home. Eagles have no flight left in them. Cry, Eagles, cry. And then Patrick closes out and says, and Dallas is a 13-point favorite. And anytime we're double-digit favorite, it spells close game to the wire. Absolutely. Excellent point on that, Patrick. So shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Parnell, he was in here earlier. Shout out to him. Patrick, Barry, Vegas Vips, whoever that is. Appreciate you guys tapping in. So other than that, man, enjoy the final regular week of the season. I'll be back here next week, Sunday, same time. Actually, or I may have to adjust it because we're going to have a lot of playoff games. I might do a Friday evening show or a pre-record show. I don't know yet, but I'll be back sometime next week, and we'll kind of break it all down. So other than that, man, I appreciate everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday Wake Up with me, Ryan Flowers. Never settle till the work is done. I'll see you guys later. Peace out, guys.